let's jump into our poem for tonight. This, some of you may have heard of this one. I picked a pretty famous one. As I was looking through them, I was like, oh, I like this poem so much. And I think it goes along with the topic tonight as well. So I wanted to make sure that we used it if we could. And this is If by Rudyard Kipling. And for those of you guys that have not heard this one, it is one of my favorites, and I'm going to read it. Please write down any word, phrase, or any of those things that stick out to you guys, and we'll jump right into the poem, and then we'll feed the poem afterwards, and some of you guys can share what sticks out to you. So it goes like this. If by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. And yet, don't look too good or talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools, You can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop down and build them up with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there's nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. All right, yeah, I'm just going to read it again. I just feel like let's just sit in it for a second. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you've given your life to broken and stoop down and build them up with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it all on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. Think about which word or phrase stands out to you and where you are, and then raise your hand and we'll have a few guys share. I'm going to turn it off. So, go ahead, Stephen.
Thing that stood out is if you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue. It's good.
It's good.
If I can be real, take off the mask.
Yeah, come on. What else? What else? Oh, yeah, go for it.
If you can keep your head about you, like stay calm, even when people are saying, "Hey, you're wrong," or blaming, or I don't remember the line. I couldn't see your thing,
Yeah,
but yeah, that's a big one. Keeping
yeah,
your cool even when people are blaming you and stuff. So
yeah. What else? Anybody else? Go for it, Reed.
This one, you can meet triumph and disaster and treat both imposters just the same. Screw you, man. Like, come on. Like, I didn't want to hear that.
Yeah, that's a brutal one,
It's brutal.
right? Because we turn into a different person.
I also didn't want to hear that. I didn't even know what it meant. Like, so,
Yeah. We have a version of us we live in, a skin we live in
one more
when we
triumph.
have triumphs, and we have a different skin we wear when things fall apart. And the truth is, we all know that who we really are is actually the person that we are when it falls apart. That's the truest. If you want to meet the truest version of who you are, it is not the person you are when everything goes right. It is the version of you that shows up when everything goes to shit. That's you. That's who you really are, because the mask gets torn off. We don't remove it, it gets ripped off. And now all those emotions, all that personality, all that energy gets released, and that's who we really are.
Does that mean that how we're reacting now and what we're doing now is truer of who we are than
Yes.
the way we were?
Yes.
Like, can we sit on that hope?
Here's the crazy part. Most people, their life falls apart, and who's the first person they tell to fuck off?
God, I guess.
There you go. Because that's how they really feel. That's true. See, all the other stuff they're doing in worship, all the other stuff they're saying in prayers, that's fake. It's hopeful, it wishes, but it's not real. And the truth is, you only get to the real version of that by going through hell first. And we do not teach that part, so we leave people with their shadows hiding, thinking that they're doing good, wondering why it's not turning into the things they were hoping for. Because hope isn't, that's the hard part. Hope is about what he wants, not what I want. If hope is about what I want, is it hope at all? Because my point is, he actually knows what's best. Like, I actually believe that he's good.
Right.
And when my life falls apart, he doesn't become less good. Right? So who changes, him or me? Right. So the point is, what's being revealed is what I didn't want to share when everything was going well because I didn't want to screw up what was going well. So I hid it, hoping that hiding it would help it go better. Does that make sense to everyone? Does that resonate? Because the hard part about that is then when it falls apart, we feel like, what just happened? And he's going, I used to put it this way. So this is really kind of the dick move. I put it this way, is we call our basic, Christianity, Sunday school. Jesus wants to make your heart his what? Home. Okay. He wants to make your heart his home. Okay, cool. If I roll up into your house and start moving furniture and throwing stuff away I don't like, that's a dick move. But if you tell me it's my home, you're just living there, then I have every right to move whatever I want and don't like. Especially if you tell me what you want me to do is come into your home, make it my home, and then decide what's healthiest for you because I have a better perspective than you. No wonder so many of us are like, God, come fix my marriage, and it falls apart first. Because the idol of your marriage has to be destroyed if he's going to build up the reality of your marriage.
Okay, so is there hope if you've kind of come to that realization on your own? Because I really need to hear that for a second.
The thing is that this is, and the hard part is this is a never-ending journey, because we're going to keep building idols because that's what human beings do. So what if it's your marriage this season? It could be your job next season. It could be your church the season after. It could be your job. Whatever it is. He's going to come in and tear down idols because that's what he does. That is the fullest description of God. He will not allow you to worship another God. There will be no other God above me, including you. And the hard part is that's why this work that we're doing is so directive, because what we're trying to partner with is the conviction that I know things aren't going right, but it's so much easier if I just ignore it and move on. And honestly, it does work. You can. You can ignore everything, but it will show up somewhere. And I think every man, looking around this group, I'm like, we all know that. So you get two choices: either be ridiculously honest about where you're really at so that you have something to work with, or pretend and call it faith and just rebuild the same structure in a different season. You're going to end up with the same results. I just heard this for working out. It's like, if you're working out and you're doing the same workout, but it's not producing results, but you're hoping in a year it'll produce results, but it's not producing results today, you probably should change your workout a little bit because it's not producing results. So if you're looking for something specific in an area of your life and you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, and it's not producing results, change the program, and then you'll get different results. You'll change the results by changing the program. And I think a lot of us in this circle had been to church for so many years and we kept getting results that we didn't like. But it's not because we didn't love God, it's just that the program was bad. That's why we joke around that I'm looking for the men in the back row of the church who actually really love Jesus but don't know where else to go to be who they really are. That's the space we're trying to provide, because at the end of the day, this poem makes the most sense to those guys. It sucks, but guess what? Guys who actually want that are going to keep showing up because the program they were in produced results they didn't want. And so I have to get a different program.
So how much of that is your beliefs and your values changing and not doing behavior modification? Because I am doing a little bit
it's all beliefs.
Right. I believe that a prayer closet is something I have a rug, so that when I see it, I'm reminded, but I don't want that to be behavior modification. But I do, but I know that it's good because I believe that God says that that's what.
Who does prayer change?
Right. Okay.
That's the point.
Right.
If we're really worshiping, who does it change? Prayer doesn't move God. He knows what's happening. He knows where this is going. He knows who you are. He knows what the desire. He's going to give you the ultimate desires of your heart. These are things he's working towards. It's like the entire Bible. We focus on the verse that says God will give you the desires of your heart, but the entire Bible is about God becoming the desire of your heart. So when God becomes the desire of your heart, then he gives you everything you wanted, because all the tools he's giving us don't change him. It changes us, but we don't want to change. I'm not sitting here and taking communion down on my little altar every single morning because I'm going to change God's mind. I'm doing it because I'm remembering the sacrifice that he gave to me. And then I want to emulate that sacrifice in every relationship I have in my life, regardless of how it benefits me. That's why he says, do this in remembrance of this model. Come and die so that you can live. It's just, that's why people shouldn't be running. Like, this is whatever. It's Jake, you guys have heard me say half this stuff before, so I'm not going to go down that road. But for me, I'm like, that's why the model's broken. Because who wants to answer, and who doesn't want to answer an altar call that says, come and get your whole life fixed? That's why people wanted to kill Jesus and not worship him, because he said, come and die, and I'll go first. That's what we should be saying. Hey, family, I'll die so that you can live. That's my role as a man to the entirety of culture. I will choose to die so that you can all live. Physically, spiritually, emotionally, relationally, psychologically, I will choose that willingly. I'm not going to be a doormat. You can't kill me because I've already chosen it. You're not taking my life. I'm giving it to you. That's what makes it a sacrifice, because this thing I'm offering you is ridiculously valuable, and I know it's valuable. So I'm offering it to you. But that's a different road. It's a different program. Does that make sense, everybody? Like, are there any questions that are coming up in what I just said? Because I don't want to jump over that. That's a whole lot of stuff. So if you do have a thought or a question, let's not pass by that. Obviously, I have something for tonight, which we can jump into a little bit, and we have daily drive, so I'm not worried about it. But I do want to make sure before I jump into that, are there any other thoughts on that or questions?
Can you just clarify what you said about it's valuable? Like, what were you saying? What was the thing that
Me.
Okay.
See, if I don't know my worth, then when I lay down my life for you, I'm giving it to you because I think it's worthless. That's how most men do it, and it's why they feel rejected and they get resentful of their wives. Because they're waiting for their wives, like we talked about with Shane. We're waiting for our wives to give us a value, or someone else, a friend, or the church, or some other whatever. We're waiting for someone to give us value so then we can lay our lives down for them. Doesn't work that way. I am valuable because of who made me. I have a worth and a value and a confidence and a conviction. I have to start with my own self-worth. I can only love others to the degree that I love myself. If I don't like me, then I'm going to have a real hard time liking you. If I think I'm jacked up and I'm stupid and I'm an idiot and I have shame and I have guilt, guess what? I'm going to compound that on you, and then I might call it love, but it's not. Now it's just manipulation because I need you to make me okay. And now I'm in codependence. So the part is I have to begin to know that's why I say we're learning how to fight for identity, family, and legacy in that order. Because if I don't know who I am and I don't know my worth, there's no woman on planet Earth, no friend, no job, no amount of money, no house, no status that is ever going to fill that in. Ever. Anywhere in our lives. There's no one that can do it. And so when I lay down my life for my family, I'm not doing it from a place of oh, woe is me. I'm doing it from a place of oh, no. I know what you're worth, and I know what I'm worth. So I'm giving up my life for you because you're worth this thing that I've invested in. Any other thoughts on that before we jump into Path 7. That was a lot of stuff. Welcome to the fight, y'all. That's where a poem can take us. That's a good one. So write that one down. It's an amazing poem. I feel like I've tried to like memorize little parts of it because they keep coming up. But let's jump into this path real quick. I want to make sure we get through this in the next 15 minutes. I don't have a lot on this one anyway because I want to jump in. I didn't want to get through too many of the things that I want to cover in daily drives. But so we are still in the journey to biblical masculinity. We are on path number 7, and we are talking about wise elders. Wise elders is a thing that we do not have very much of anymore. We don't have men developing into their old age to carry wisdom to a bunch of younger men who have a ton of questions, and their longing is just to pass that information, that knowledge, that wisdom on to young men, not to manipulate them, not to hire them, or to be for them to, pay to be a part of their mastermind and then manipulate and control them in some certain way that they benefit from. There used to be a path for men to become wise elders so that they could initiate young men at 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old so that their longing of their heart would be, I want to be an elder. Like, that's the cool part about looking up some of these old tribal traditions for initiation and rites of passage, because you have these 12-year-old boys who are like, I want to be like that dude. That's who I'm going after. I want to be like that guy. That guy is dangerous, and he's wise, and he is out to get me because he knows what I'm capable of, and he's going to push me into the depths of my own soul at 12. And we just didn't have men like that. I mean, most of us in this gathering barely had a dad because he worked X amount of hours or he bailed. So the fact that we didn't even have this as a father in our own fathers tells us the problem we have in culture, that we don't even have wise elders who are building up a value to say, I want to pour into young people. I've told you guys this from the very beginning. The fight literally exists to grow up wise elders because we are going to start the most badass youth group on planet Earth. That's really why we're doing this. I just want hundreds and hundreds of wise elders, and then we're going to go grab thousands of teenage boys and make sure that they have a pathway to initiation that none of us got. And we'll be the wise elders in their life to offer them something better than what we were offered. And so that is the pathway forward. But what is a wise elder? I start with a quote in the path number 7. I start with a quote from Iron John, which again, that's another book. Read that book, Iron John, ridiculous, Robert Bly. But it ends, the story of Iron John, the old mythological tale, ends where the young boy who starts our story trying to get his golden ball back with Iron John, he's now at his wedding. He's now getting married. It's a beautiful moment. And in the midst of this wedding ceremony, a king walks in with his entire entourage. And he walks in and bows before the boy. He bows before this boy and he says, I was Iron John and I was under a curse. And until you chose to live in the fullness of all you were created for, that curse could not be broken. Now that this curse and enchantment is off of my life, all that I possess is yours. That is the picture of a wise elder. The entire story of Iron John, the Iron John is serving this young prince. And as the young prince comes into his fullness, guess what? Iron John gets set free too. It's not just the boy. The wise elder gets set free. If you need the biblical version, it's in Hebrews 11. Like, we have to finish our work, Hebrews 11 and 12. We have to finish the work in our lives in order to fulfill the promises on the lives of those who went before us. That is the way this works. Why do we do the blessing? Because we do the blessing every single gathering we have, because it's saying my lineage has purpose and I am the fulfillment of that purpose. And whether or not everyone else behind me screwed that thing up, I'm going to choose it for those who are coming after me. Because I know that when I choose it, everyone after me benefits. And this is what I tell people a bunch, is like, if your family line is like, let's say addiction, and you choose not to be in addiction, now your kids may know that their grandparents were in addiction, but your great-grandkids will barely have a memory of it. And your great-great-grandkids will never even know it was in your family line, which means what you fought for now came into its fullness, but it happened after your lifetime. The very thing you were fighting for came 3 generations after you. And now your great-great-grandkids have no idea addiction was even a part of their family line because you let the tide of that thing break against the wall of your own life. Yes, you had to pay a price for that, but it ended with you, and it doesn't come into its fullness until 3 generations later, and the promises you were living for are now being fulfilled. We need men who are living in this way so that the curse breaks with them, and you have, in order to do this, this is the phrase, you have to finish well. Anybody can live a life and run a 100-yard dash and like be really, really awesome for all of 5 minutes. But the real question is, will you finish well? And we are watching this all over culture, guys. All over culture, both in government and in the church and in culture. Men are morally compromised and throwing away their positions because of their own brokenness. Now, again, let me make this clear. For you guys and for me, maybe this isn't your story. I've been massively wounded by guys who overpromised and underdelivered consistently. People who are like, Jake, you're the greatest thing ever. You're so amazing. It's so awesome. I'm going to call you every day. You're the best. You're the wonderful. And it's so awesome. And I never hear from them again. I think they mean well. And maybe some of you guys have experienced that too. Or maybe you've been that guy. I've been that guy at times, and I had to go back and repent to a bunch of people. But there is a reality that for us, we have been met with a bunch of people who could have been wise elders to us, but never gave us the opportunity to learn from them because they overpromised and underdelivered. And the goal for us is to not look for somebody perfect. It's to look for somebody who is, they may be bad, but they are not bad. They are just broken. And we have to begin to look for men who will grow us in the areas we want to grow in because they were willing to expose their brokenness, and now they're willing to explore it with us. And that's all we need. We don't need a perfect man. If you're looking for someone perfect, you're looking for God, you're not looking for a wise elder, okay? So if you are looking for someone perfect, you're looking for God and not a wise elder. We need wise elders. That's a totally different piece that we need in our lives. And the best movie I saw on this, and maybe some of you guys have seen this movie. How many of you guys have seen Whiplash? Anybody seen Whiplash, that movie about the drummer and his teacher? So I love the last scene of that movie. And the reason I love the last scene of that movie is you guys have to watch the whole movie, so I don't want to mess it up. But he totally screws the drummer, his young student, because the student, held him accountable for acting like a total asshole. And then he screws this student in front of all of these really important musicians. He gives them a piece of music to learn and then plays a different piece. But the boy comes back out on stage and he sits down at the drums and is like, hell no, I'm taking this thing. And so he just takes over and starts a song and says, I'll call you in. We're doing this song. Boom, plays through it all the way through the song. Already the teacher is now impressed. Like the teacher is like, oh crap, this kid is like taking over. It's ridiculous. You see it on his face. This is amazing. But then as the song ends, and the teacher puts down his arms, end of song. Drummer comes right back in and starts playing, keeps playing. The song's over and he keeps going. He's like, I'll count you in now. Tells the teacher, I'll count you in. Because he went farther than him. Oh, you're not going to stop me because of your poor behavior. I'm still going to become who I was meant to become. And then at the end of the movie, right as it finishes, he does the little roll at the end, snap, ends. There's this one cut, and the cut is just the teacher's eyes and the student's eyes. Teacher's eyes, student's eyes. And there's this look of pleasure in both of their eyes. This is what we signed up for. We both just experienced the fullness of what we were capable of. And then they do the last hit, and that's the end of the movie. It's the end of the whole movie, is the last hit. And what I'm trying to tell you is, just because somebody treated you like shit and tried to sabotage you, does not mean you can't learn anything from it. That's a really huge, important point, because despite sabotage, you can turn those moments into success. And if you don't determine to master your emotions, you will become the monster that they are times 10. Like whatever you experienced and you don't know how to metabolize, you will then spit back out in increase because you think that's how it's done. And then the next time a wise elder does come into your life, the next time someone does step into your world and says, I can help you, you're like, yeah, screw you, I don't trust you. No, we'll just learn from everyone. Because your brokenness, my learning and growing is not dependent upon your brokenness. And the way that I want you to look at it as we kind of end this, or I'll give you two pieces. Number one, what we're looking for as young boys, and some of you have heard me say this, we are born with a crown that's too big for our heads. That is the reality of us as young boys. We are born with a crown that does not fit on our heads, and we are begging for someone to hold it for us until we're big enough to wear it. And we keep giving it to the wrong people. We keep handing it to the wrong men, and they take our crown. And now they think it's theirs, or they lose our crown. And then when we want it back, they don't know how to go get it. But we are looking for men who are going to be able to hold the crown for us. It's why a monarchy, just even oversee, even when we see in Europe, what it does is it holds the collective conscience of a country. You're going to be big enough to hold my crown because you're promising me sitting in that seat, you're going to hold your shit together. That's what we used to have in government. We used to have a man who could hold his shit together. He would sit in that Oval Office and he didn't do everything right. We didn't have to agree, but he held a place of royalty in the land where it's like, at least that's going to create stability. That was the goal of what government should be. That was the goal of what a father should be. That's the goal of all these other men that were supposed to have these positions, was supposed to be collectively, I'll hold this space for you. And we have this huge crown when we're kids, and we're like, maybe they'll wear it. Superheroes can wear it. Actors, now it's actors, it's freaking influencers. Now you can hold my crown. But the truth is, we are looking for someone to hold it who will actually look out for us until we're big enough to wear it. That's what a wise elder does. And we need to be doing it, and how do we find it? Two things. Number one, let me give you three pieces and then we'll end, which is this. If we want to look for someone like this in our lives, we have to recognize three things. Number one, it's seasonal. Do not try to give your life forever and ever to a man or to a movement forever and ever, amen. I mean, the goal of the fight is just to we're trying to work ourselves out of a job in the sense that there's millions of men, so we're not going to run out. But what we're trying to do is get you to a place that you know how to do this on your own. We want you to build your own community. We want you to build your own crew. We want you to build your own tribe. We want you to build it in your house, with your friends, with the community you're building. We want to empower men to be able to walk this thing out so you're not dependent on systems, but you're able to build the things in your life that will structurally sustain you in the season that you're in. That's what we're trying to give you. That's what we're trying to offer you. We want you to have these tools. So remember that it's seasonal, not forever. Number two, you need to know which part of the seven pillars you want to grow in, because you can't grow in all of them at the same time. I'm really sorry. I wish we could, but we just can't do all of it at once because it would just kill all of us. But for those of you that don't know the 7 pillars, there is a course on this. If you are in our program, if you're in the platform, you can go find the 7 pillars teaching. It's going to be in there. 7 pillars are faith, family, finance, fitness, friendship, formation, and fun. And each one of those you're going to grow in a different way and in a different season. So what you need to look for is not someone who's going to encompass all of those. I want to go in fitness. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm not going to probably go find a pastor. I'm probably not going to go find a psychologist. I'm going to find a trainer. Because I want someone who's going to help me in that area. Same thing in the reverse. If I'm going to grow in my faith, I'm probably not going to go find a gym trainer. I'm going to go find somebody who's actually got the kind of faith, the kind of life in God that I want, and I'm going to find that person, and I'm going to get them to pour into my life. So you need to know that there are different areas of strength for different men, and you need to find those different areas for them. Okay? So those are the things you guys need to look out for and find in each of your lives for the 7 pillars. And the last is, I would say this, either way, look for a man who can own his own story, because that is priority over everything else. Authenticity is authority. Authenticity is authority. If they are not authentically who they are in one area, I promise you it's in every area. And we have to begin to be honest about the fact that we are looking for men who are being authentic. We don't need a man who's perfect. We need a man who's real. That's what we're looking for. And finally, I'll end with this, which is that if you can't find one today, it's just an invitation to become one. Because anywhere in your life you can't find the thing you're looking for, it's your job to become it. So if you're like, dude, I looked around my life. Okay, there's no one. Okay, so I get a way out, Jake. I looked around my life. There isn't somebody. Oh, that's just an invitation to now become it. So I need this type of man in my life. That's an invitation to become that. And here's what I've found in most stories. The moment you attempt to become it, there's a man who reveals himself that will help you along that journey. That I have seen. And we have to begin in our own lives to become that. And we're not going to make excuses. Well, Jake, I don't have anybody like that in my life. Yeah, you probably don't today. Maybe you don't. So that's not an excuse to stop. Stop looking, stop growing. You have to start looking and keep growing. And then when that man shows up, you'll have the right questions to ask. When that wise elder in that area of your life that you need shows up, you'll know you'll have the right questions to bring him in that moment. So any thoughts on that? I'm going to send you guys to the community, but is there anything pertinent that you want to throw out there tonight before we go and have those conversations in the community and we finish out with the blessing?
I'm just curious, what does it look like for someone to hold a crown? I don't think I understand. I don't think I got
the analogy or the picture is you're born knowing you want to do great things. That's actually trained out of you, right? So we're born with this huge set of ideas of what we want to do, what we want to become, what we're going to accomplish, how life is going to go. That is trained out of us through experience. It's beat out of us literally by life. And so what happens is if someone holds that crown, all the stuff we thought possible about our own greatness, about our own strength, about our own courage, about our own convictions, if someone holds that crown for us, it should start with a dad, by the way, a dad and then a wise elder in our life, holds that. Then when we fall out of season, they're the ones that come back and go, hey, come here. Did you forget who you are? Let me show you. And they show you the crown and go, keep going. Because you got to wear this one day, and I want you to wear it. I can't wait for you to wear it. So they hold it in a space of going, now you're going to walk into this. This is what you were made for. So it's a way of saying, here's your greatness. Here's what you're made for. Here's what you're capable of. And they remind you of it. But we end up handing it to, go ahead.
So it's almost like kind of keeping them in their lane in a capacity.
Well, yeah, because we're all going to go through hurt. Yeah. So who's the man in our life? Like, again, go back to tribal initiation. It's like these kids would go through hard stuff. But at the end of the day, they're like, I want to be like that dude. He goes through some seriously hard stuff, and I want to be like him. Look how he handles it. Mm-hmm. I want to be that strong. I want to be like that. Like, I watched my dad, like my mom and, I'm not giving up on my marriage. My mom and dad have made it. They're like 50 years in, dude. Like, they've set the standard now, so fuck everything else. I'm showing up, but I've seen it, and it was not good. Like, you know what I mean? I saw it, and it was not like pleasant being their son as they were figuring it out. But I'm like, oh, I'm going to fight like that. You know? So there's these things in our lives that are like, I'm being reminded of it because of the people that held my crown. And there's people that I gave it to that abused the hell out of it. They took it and said, I'll leverage your greatness for mine. And I will manipulate you into situations of control so that I can gain from who you are. And I don't give a shit what happens to you.
Every music movie ever.
Exactly. But that's the point. It's like, when you're dealing with insecure men and not wise elders, then that's the only thing they can produce. Can you imagine? Like all of you are going to be these guys. You're going to literally, as men, grown men, you're going to walk up to young boys and be like, I have something for you, and I need nothing from you. I'm going to make sure, come hell or high water, that you enter into the fullness of what you were made for. That's what I'm doing. Dude, we would have crushed it. Could you imagine if we had that at 12? Like, we would have crushed it. It would have been awesome. But we get to become that. That's the invitation.
Yeah.
I can't wait. That's why I'm like so excited. I'm like, dude, we're going to buy thousands of acres. That's what, dude. And again, I just look at hope differently. I'm like, everyone's like, oh, the market's going to crash. It's like, cool. I'll buy tons of land while it's cheap. Like, I don't care what happens in society, because I know I'm already leveraged to capitalize on any season that the government goes through, because I'm not living in this age. I'm living for something better than whatever the government can provide me. So I'm not looking at things like this is a loss or this is a whatever. I'm like, no, I'm going to leverage all of it for all the things that I know that we were made for. But again, that's a different perspective I think we can all have. I'm going to learn and grow in these seasons to leverage what I have in order to build momentum for my great-great-grandchildren, because I'm not living for me. You know? And so we can start building that by doing these things. And yeah, I don't know. It's like, to me, like, that's what gets me excited. That's what sucks about being in this group too, because I get excited when you go through something hard, because I know what you're capable of. And I'm not doing that to be a dick. I'm going like, dude, I know what you're capable of. I'm sorry it's hard. But I actually believe in you more than you believe in yourself right now. I actually know, as man to man, I don't care what you've been through, I know what you're capable of. And I'm going to hold you to that. And that's why this group, like, as it grows, it's going to be a very, very interesting place to be. Because what do you do with 1,000 dudes who have that kind of attitude? I don't think you can, like, you can't stop that. You know what I mean? So I also don't know how you organize it. So God bless that part. So Stephen, go ahead, and then we'll do the blessing.
Let me see. I think I'm asking this correctly. Is getting around wise men good enough?
Getting around wise men good enough?
Is I guess surrounding yourself with
Yes.
wise men good enough?
Yes. That is what we're doing. Right? Like, just getting in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just FYI, this is what I'm saying. That's why get your ass to fight weekend. Okay? Like, just get there. Come hell or high water, get there. Why? Because now you're not in the room with like one wise dude. You're sitting, that's why it's like, this isn't Jake Hamilton guru. This is like, everybody in the room is a badass in their own right and have been through some stuff. And I can learn from where they've been, and I can learn from what they've experienced. And that collective wisdom in a group of men who are finally being authentic, being real, because authenticity is authority, I can now gain from somebody else's pain in a way that allows me to learn how to apply that to my own circumstances, because you're willing to be authentic and real. So to me, like, just bouncing off that, Stephen, it's like, this isn't a person who's arrived. This is a dude who's in it and engaging with it, not ignoring it. That to me is what makes a wise elder. The most jacked up dude that's just honest about it, they're worth 1,000 men who think they have it figured out. Every day. Every day. Does that make sense, Stephen? Cool. Jacob, last thing, we did jump into that blessing.
Yeah. So if someone acts like they've arrived, is that a sign that they have not?
That is dude, I promise you, every day. I tell people this all the time, especially when I'm preaching. I'll be like, dude, any dude gets on this stage and tell you they got it figured out, just literally stand up, yell heretic, and go get a coffee. It's going to be way more worth your time. Nobody has God figured out. Nobody has worship figured out, prayer figured out, end times figured out, Trinity figured out, Holy Spirit, gifts, signs, wonder, just salvation, just make heaven, hell. If someone gets on stage and goes, no, I get it. We're good. Heresy, coffee, because it's not worth it. Any wise elder, everyone that's worth their salt that I've ever met, just a few guys that I'm like, oh, this is an elder. Every one of them is like, well, I don't really know what I'm doing, but here's what I think. And I'm like, oh, that's when you get real close. You're like, whatever's about to come out is going to be gold. Because the dude who shows up and is like, I got this on lock, you're like, you're hiding something. You are hiding something, and I don't know what it is, but I don't want to be around to find out. I don't want to be around to find out. So
is that a
that's
sign
a great question.
to stay at a little bit of a distance from them?
Yeah, I just wouldn't go in deep. That doesn't mean you can't learn anything from them. Like I said, these people aren't bad. They're broken. I just wouldn't submit my life to them, or like I said earlier, give them my crown.
Yeah.
You know? Cool. So let's do the blessing, close out. Yeah, of course. Let's do the blessing. We'll close out. And then we're covering a lot of ground this week in the Daily Drives. We're going to talk about spiritual fatherhood and how that's not actually a thing. So that'll be tomorrow. Congratulations. There's, I'm going to give you a little bit of the history of where that came from culturally and why we think that's a thing and why Jesus says it's not. Then we're going to do Remember Mercy. So the idea of what it means to remember that you need to have mercy for yourself if you're going to walk into being a wise elder. And then what it means to be the mystic at the edge of the village. What does it mean to be the mystic who lives between the wilderness, the wild, and civility? We're going to talk about the fact that you can only move forward. When you meet a wise elder, there is no going backwards. It's only forward, one season, one experience, and you don't get it back, and you have to learn from it. And then we're going to jump into a couple other things on the weekend, what it means to become a man after God's own heart, and then be able to give that heart to others, because that's really what we have to offer more than anything else, is just our hearts and our stories. So let's end. Go ahead, everybody, turn on your microphones, and we're going to do the blessing, and we'll end with this declaration. So here we go. I am the evidence
I am the
I'm the
of the
evidence
strength of my ancestors.
of the
of
strength
the strength of my ancestors.
There are many things
There are
There
many
are many things
within my lineage
within my lineage
that attempted to obliterate
that attempted to obliterate
all forms of goodness.
all
all forms of goodness.
But I
but
But I
am the living proof
am the living proof
that it did not work.
that it did not work.
All right, guys, you crushed it. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys in the community. Have a good night.